What's up, everybody? Hope you guys all had a wonderful Christmas. Um, the topic I wanted to talk about today was mental wellness. The reason why I wanted to talk about that was just because, I think there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to the way you take care of your mentals um, that, I feel like we should start slowly trying to break down. I think when I first got into the league, I did so much workout, so many things, and I didn't realize how much of this game is mental, and not even from the standpoint of like intellectually, but just from the highs, the lows, the what it puts on your body mentally, and we could talk about football, but it can be no matter what sport, profession you in. There's a mental aspect of it, and if you don't take care of it, it can catch up to you. And I think I see that in a lot of people that walk away from the game that I play. I see that in a lot of people that walk away from their profession. They struggle because they don't really focus on something that should be a focus. And I think it should be something that we talk about a little bit more. I think a lot of times like we hide the stuff that we go through on a personal level, and we think that is strength. And the real strength is knowing when you need help. And like I said, there's a lot of misconceptions. Even myself, like when I heard of the word therapist, I always just thought crazy. I didn't really think of it from a standpoint of like, when we work out, when we really want to get a really really good workout, we find a good workout coach. And when you want to take care of your mind and you're having trouble figuring that out, you find somebody who is similar to a coach that can help you process that. And so I think it's important for people like myself and other people to um, really talk about that side of the game, and that side of what it takes to be successful, because there's a lot of highs and lows and a lot of times where things don't go your way, or things are hard in your life. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how little money you have. Everybody has something that's going on in their life that sometimes is overwhelming. And if you kind of always just keep it compressed, at some point it's going to come out, and come out in ways that you may not want it to come out. So I just wanted to stress it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to look for somebody to help you out through that process. And I support anybody that needs that help. And I think it should be a conversation moving forward, and just let us all figure out a way to get mentally stronger.
All right,
Questions?
Jen.
I hate to transition off of that topic because it's such an important message, but I do have a couple of football questions for you.
It's all good.
Starting with a legendary figure in the passing of John Madden, in your lifetime and knowledge, how did he affect the game?
I think he affected it in a lot of ways. A lot of ways that maybe I don't even realize it, because even like for myself, I'm considered an older guy here, but a lot of my introduction to Madden was through the video game, and so that's kind of how I knew him. It's very similar to like a lot of the guys growing up, and they hear about Michael Jordan, they just think shoes. They don't think like, which is crazy enough, like people like us who watch Jordan play, or watch highlights, to think that these younger generations only see him as the guy that makes really cool sneakers. Uh, I think it's kind of like that same thing, but you see the impact he had, you see the energy that he had, whether he was a coach, a commentator, and like I said, the video game. He's had a huge impact on the game, literally, and he's gonna be missed for sure.
Okay, now a question about this week's game. Detroit likes to run the ball. They like to run it weak side more than anything else. What does that mean for you guys in recognition and awareness?
We just have to come down and make our plays. Like you said, they run weak side. Everybody knows they might run that. It doesn't mean they're gonna do that on Sunday. Everybody understand their tendencies. Good teams understand their tendencies, and they're gonna break those tendencies, especially when they play us. And so we got to be mindful of where they like to run it, but also be open-minded to understand that they have nothing to lose, and they can run left, they can run right, they can run up the middle, they can do trick plays. I would strongly feel that they'll do whatever it takes to win the game, as will we.
Corbin. Hey, Bobby, kind of going off the question on you mentioned the Madden video game. I don't know how much you've played over the years. I know a number of your teammates still play Madden, but is that something that you did a lot growing up? And if so, was there a particular player on the game that was the most unstoppable that you had to play with?
Um, yeah, I played a lot growing up. I used to play with my brother, and then it's interesting. I got to a point where I was playing with my nephews and stuff like that. The game that stands out to me the most was the Michael Vick year, because you could not stop him. If he tried to take off and run, there was literally no way that it was going to be possible. Anytime you play with Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, or Sean Taylor, those guys, it seemed like they was making plays all over the field. Um, but yeah, that Michael Vick year, I don't think anybody can ever top that player.
Bob.
Yeah, Bobby, you mentioned jokingly being the old guy, but you are wrapping up year 10 and in the league and all of that. Do you ever get reflective at all on sort of being in the league 10 years and maybe how much longer you have to be able to play?
I look at it. I think this year would probably be the year that I would reflect a little bit, only because when I first got into the league, I really wanted to. I was just trying to figure out what goals I could set for myself, and the first goal was, when I got here, everybody was saying that players only lasted 3 years, so I was trying to get to at least 5, and I said, okay, once I get to 5, I want to see if I can get to 10, and so this would be that year 10. So I'll probably think about just how the 10 years have gone, but as far as like me seeing myself stop playing or anything like that, I don't see myself stop playing. I feel like I got a lot of room to grow as a player, to grow as a leader. I feel like there's a lot of new technology that's going to let me play a little bit longer, so I'm excited to dive into those stuff, and I think we'll see how it works out.
Tim Booth.
Bobby, you're also a very smart businessman, having done your last deal yourself. Do you have a large cap hit next year? Do you wonder at all, based around saying that you want to play beyond many more years? Do you wonder at all if next year you'll be with Seattle?
You think about it. You think about what the next year looks like, and just period what the future holds, because this was a season that I don't think we all planned for. We didn't plan for the season to go this way, and so obviously there's going to be some changes, and whether or not I'm part of those changes, I don't know. But all I can control is these last 2 games, and figure it out from there. And whatever the team seems or thinks is the best thing to do moving forward, we'll see how that plays out.
And then it's been 3 months now. You've come out and you've taken the time to talk to us about things that you've wanted to talk about. Do you feel, maybe aside from the Mayo week, do you feel like you've accomplished or gotten the feedback that you were hoping to from bringing up all these different topics?
I think so. I think it was just my goal was to form a dialogue, just have a dialogue that was different. I think a lot of times we come up here and we talk about obviously the game. We talk about maybe certain things that's going on. Maybe you guys ask certain questions, whether it's from a family perspective or a record or something that you guys may read about. And so I thought it was a cool opportunity to kind of control the conversation. I felt like we had a nice conversations. We opened up a lot of eyes, even when it came to Mayo. And so I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the conversation with you guys. I feel like I'm a very closed off person to an extent. And so it's kind of brought you guys into my world to a little bit, even to my refrigerator, I guess. And so I think it's done what it's supposed to do. It started some conversations. We've had some good things. There's a lot of unexpected things that kind of happened from it as well. And so I don't know if I'll continue to do it, but I think it was a good first year, and hopefully I can build off the next year.
Masvita.
Hey, Bobby, one home game left and another one, season's over. How much is important or how much do you take into as a leader for the players to stay in the moment, in the play, in what's in front of them, as opposed to get reflective and kind of, don't want to put that out there, but drift, and just kind of write off the last 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think we might have talked about it last week. I think it's important for myself and some of the other guys to remind the younger guys that these last 2 weeks is still, film, it's your resume, and teams are watching this film, and you're playing for something. You're playing for your pride. You're playing for the people next to you. You're playing for jobs. You're playing for security. You're playing for a lot of things that are bigger than you, and so that should be a strong enough message for you to kind of close the season out and finish understanding that you're playing for something that is bigger than you, whether it's the person next to you's job, whether it's the person next to you family, coaches' families, period. There's things out there, for you to find that energy and find that love for the game to finish these 2 games off and finish them off in the right way. And like I said, why not go out with a bang?
Just going back to kind of Tim's question, as somebody who's kind of closed off, how much courage did it take for you to implement this new kind of messaging you did all this season?
Yeah, it took a lot. Like I said, I don't really like to talk about myself. I don't like to talk about my family and just kind of the things that I do. I feel like the world that we live, it creates this facade almost that you're bigger than what you are. You go out to the stores or go out to restaurants and people know who you are, and you can kind of get stuck in that world. And when they take that world away from you, I think that's where some of the mental problems come, because you get so used to being treated a certain way because people want you, like people love what you do for them and how you make them feel. And the moment you take that away, they don't realize what they're taking away. And so I try to keep myself grounded, keep myself connected to my loved ones and the people around me, and protect them. I chose this world. I chose this life. The people around me didn't choose this life. So what comes with this life, and the eyes that come with this life, I try to do my best as a leader in my family to protect them as much as I can.
Thanks.
John Boyle.
Yeah, Bobby, going back to the mental health topic you started off with, how much have you seen in your decade in the league amongst players, maybe a little more openness to that topic or acceptance of guys talking about it?
I think I've seen a lot. Honestly, I think it starts with people that you look at, and from the outside, you think everything is right and everything is fine, and then when they come out and say everything is not fine, like I said, that takes a lot of strength, because not only does it help the person who is speaking, but it helps the other people that are hesitant to talk about the struggles that they're going with, and it starts the process of finding help. And I feel like it's been a shift with that, because especially in the sport that we play, we're taught to be these physical, strong-minded people and hide every feelings that you have, hide every emotions that you have. And I think our generation is finding out that that's going to catch up to you. And so I feel the dialogue changing. I feel people being more open to having that conversation, and also more open to finding help, and the people around them open to, when somebody's just fighting it, to be the person that pushes that person to get some help. And so, we've seen a lot of tragic events that have happened, from mental health and mental wellness and stuff like that. So I think it's just all of our part, including your own, to try to figure out ways to, prevent that or stop that or help it.
And then one football one, you broke your own tackles record on Sunday. You're up to 170 now this year. Just what do accomplishments like that mean to you at this point in your career?
I think it's something that, like I think Bob asked earlier, something that I'll be reflective on probably after the season, something that I'm grateful for. Obviously, my teammates play a huge role in that, but then it just, to me, just speaks on or confirms the consistency that if you just keep doing things the right way and keep taking care of your body, keep taking care of your mind, and try to execute and play the game at a higher level, there's still room to get better. And I think the biggest person that I watch and see that impacts me a lot is just LeBron. I watch him play every game, and it just seems like he's getting better and better. Like, he's not slowing down. He's not, he's still the best, in the league to a lot of people. And that's because it's his preparation, because how he take care of his body. And it's somebody that I look up to and I admire. And so I try to do that same thing.
Art?
Back to mental health, Bobby. You mentioned this season right now is unexpected. You weren't ready for this. It's kind of a shock. How are you managing the shock mentally?
I meditate a lot. I try to find the good in a lot of, there's a lot of bad, but I try to find the good, and really just kind of put my energy in trying to keep everybody focused on, the task at hand, and understanding that all we have is these moments. And like you said, a lot of times when you're in this situation, you start getting reflective, and you start, thinking about what you could have did right the previous weeks, and you start thinking about, what the future is going to hold. And when all that happens, you lose more, you miss out on growth. And so, I think for me it's just, trying to stay the course, try to be consistent as possible, still doing my workouts, still watching my film, still, going out there and trying to help our team succeed and execute at a high level, and let everything else kind of figure out itself.
Greg?
Bobby, what has the NFL and or the Seahawks done, or what could they do they haven't done to do better about mental health, putting systems in or support systems and mechanisms?
I think the league has one of the biggest things that they've done is obviously provided the platform for guys to speak. I think that's probably the biggest thing is, you see a lot of guys talking about mental health or mental wellness, and when you see your athlete or the person that you look up to talking about those things, it gets put on your mind. So for me, that's probably the biggest thing that they do. But as far as the Seahawks, they got different therapists and different things to help you when you need, and so a lot of it is just trust. And I think it's bigger than just the NFL, and it's bigger than the Seahawks, because a lot of people don't just trust that easy. So if you want to go see a therapist or anything like that, you're not going to just walk into the first person that you see. Similar to like most relationships that we have in this world, like you don't just get along with everybody. It takes time, and so I think that's what the focus should be, is allowing the people that may need help to take that time to find the right help for them, and start the process of being great.
And the tackles, your numbers, Jordan Brooks' numbers, is there a downside, a negative, that you've had that many tackles and that many plays to make tackles on this year?
I mean, I would say the downside is the probably all the plays that we played to get those tackles. It's probably not always a great thing to be out there on the field as long as we've been out there on the field. But at the end of the day, we're out there and we still have to make the plays. And so, I would say the downside is how long we're out there on the field. But the upside is, when they come to us, more often than not, we make the plays.
Thank you.
Michael, Sean?
Hey, Bobby, who taught you how to be a leader?
Christmas tree.
Yeah.
All right.
Should I take it down by now? Or no? Shouldn't have it up this long?
Everybody has their preference. Some people wait till after New Year's. Some people will take it down right away. I mean, it's your world.
Fair enough.
I like your do-rag, too.
Thank you. Black-owned do-rag.
I like it.
My question. I asked, who taught you how to be a leader?
Man, that's a loaded question. That's a lot of people. My parents, Coach Norton, Sherm, Cam, Ray Lewis. I mean, I can go on. I mean, it's a lot of people. I think the way that I kind of like figured it out was figure out what your style is, because not everybody's the same. Because oftentimes, like when people think about leadership, they find something they like and they try to mimic it, and that doesn't always work out if you don't know yourself and you're not true to yourself. And so, I think the first thing is figuring out who you are as a person and what works for you, and then find those people that's similar to that, and then studying them and see what you can steal from them and make it your own. And I think that kind of turns into it. But that's kind of the advice that I got from a lot of people that asked me that question, was just figure out who. And so I just started to listen to how Barack Obama spoke and how he, kind of broke down his speeches. I listened to obviously Ray Lewis. I listened to Malcolm X. I listened to Kendrick, and just the way they delivered their messages. I like the way they delivered their message, and so I try to apply it to myself and turn it to my own.
What specifically did you learn about leadership from Richard and Cam?
They're two different styles. Cam was very quiet, but obviously his game was loud. But he had a relationship with literally everybody in the room, and that was a way that he could kind of get everybody's attention because he had a relationship with everybody. And so I learned a lot of taking the time to build relationships with Cam. And similar to Sherm had a lot of relationships with people too, but Sherm was more outspoken. Sherm was more call you out, hold you accountable, in your face, things of that nature. And so, but there was a balance. Not everybody responds to the way Sherm was doing it, and not everybody responds to the way Cam was doing it. So there was a balance, but it was nice to have those different types of styles because it fit somebody, and mostly everybody in the room. And so you try to just steal from those guys and see how they move.
Thanks.
All right, last one, Brady.
Bobby, Merry belated Christmas. How do you feel like your play this season stacks up to maybe some of the seasons that you've had recently?
I don't know. I haven't really looked at everything. I feel like there has been areas that I've improved on. There's been areas that I need to improve on. So it's kind of hard to say with 2 games left. I just been trying to get better and stay hungry and not be complacent with anything that's going on. And I think that's what the great ones do.
Did you hear from anybody notable after you got the tackle record?
I heard from a lot of people, to be honest. A lot of players reached out. A lot of people reached out. I think it's always love when you play against coaches or you play against different people and they reach out to you and they show their love and support to your game. It kind of confirms all the hard work that you've been doing. But I mean, it wasn't anybody like crazy. I feel like anytime anybody reach out to me about something is special to me.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bobby.
Appreciate it.